Hey everyone, I'm Tsetzuko, and this is my video for my OPie ring setup for Warlocks in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Don't forget to throw a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe, and ring the bell if you haven't yet. Share the video if you want to share this with your friends, help the channel continue to grow. Don't forget to check the description below for a link to the Patreon where you could support more videos like this, and also for a link to the Discord where you can jump in, chat with us, hang out, get help, and just be a part of the community. Alright, in this video I'm going to be showcasing the OPie rings that I've created for Warlocks in World of Warcraft Shadowlands and walking through how they're set up and how you can change and customize them. I'm going to be assuming that you've watched my updated OPie video, which I'll have a link to in the description below, and I'll throw a card here on the video as well in case you need to link over to that. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into the OPie menu, and we are going to take a look at the different rings that are here. So first off, we have our Warlock CC ring. This is our crowd control ring. It contains stuff like fear and shadow fury, anything that helps us control enemies. Next, we have the core ring. This is the stuff that we have that we're casting constantly in combat. So things that don't necessarily have a long cooldown and we use on every single enemy we face. Then we have our Warlock defensive ring, which contains our defensive abilities that help us survive or regenerate our health. Next, we have our miscellaneous ring, which contains our mounts and some of our other Warlock tools. After that, we have our offensive ring, which contains abilities we use in order to deal more damage, but maybe ones that don't get used as frequently as the ones on our core ring. So these are going to be ones with cooldowns or maybe things that we only get if we have a certain talent. After that, we have our Warlock utility, which contains our movement skills and some of our other miscellaneous abilities that we're going to want to have available to us on command in combat, potentially. So after that, there are going to be a couple of hidden rings as well. We're going to have Warlock Demons, Warlock Gates, Warlock Tools 1, Tools 2, and Utility Mounts. Now, Utility Mounts is one that if you've imported it before, you do not need to import it again. But in order to get all these rings to work, you're going to need to import the 6 main rings, the 4 Warlock hidden rings, and then you're also going to need to import the Utility Mounts ring as well. In addition to that, you're going to need to set up a macro. Now, you can set this up however you like. I'm using just a generic X icon with the title divide. There's no macro commands in here. So if you type /macro, you hit new, you can find whatever icon you want and then just name it divide. I'm going to name it divide 2 since I already have one, and then you're good. Okay, this will allow you to put in. It'll have the macro automatically in place with the icon that you've chosen as long as the name matches, okay? So let's get into the rings and how we're going to customize them. So we're going to skip the more complicated ones and just cover the easy ones, okay? So for Warlock CC, by default for all specializations, our quick cast ability is going to be Fear. This is the ability we can use the most frequently and we get the most use out of. After that, we've got a divider, so quick cast abilities are always going to be above the first divider within the ring. And we've got a selection of other abilities. Most of these are available to all specializations. Actually, all of them are, but 2 of them are talents. So we have Mortal Coil and we have Howl of Terror, which you only get through talents. So if you have either one of those will show up in your CC ring. Now, since I don't have one of those, it's not showing up here. That's totally fine. As we go through these rings, if you click on one of the slices, you're going to see show this slice for, and that will let you know which specializations this is available for. This isn't something you generally have to set, but I've set it within these rings so that you know at a glance, hey, this is an ability that all Warlock specializations can use. So the crowd control one is pretty simple. This should cover just about everything that you possibly would need for crowd control. One important note as we go through these rings is that I have not included any war mode abilities. That's taking things to like another level And that's going to be easier for you to just plop in specifically when you need it on whatever ring that you want. Moving on to the Warlock defense, at the top, our quick cast is going to be Drain Life so that we can get that health back whenever we need it. After that, we've got a selection of abilities that are applicable to all specializations, depending on if you have the abilities and talents selected. And then finally, after that, I have a divider that says racial ability below. This is where I'm placing my racial ability. My Warlock is a Dark Iron Dwarf, and Fireblood is a defensive style cooldown, so I've included that here in the ring. Now, in your case, you're going to want to determine where your racial ability is best suited and move it to that particular ring. Now, all you have to do in order to do that is add a new slice, go to abilities, and pick your racial ability. And then you're good to go as long as it's in the ring and the position that you want it to be in. In the case of the racial ability you're going to be importing, I have a visibility conditional set so that this will only show up if you're a Dark Iron Dwarf. So importing these rings, you'll just be good to go. You're not going to have Fireblood in there if you don't have Fireblood. And when you're ready to, you can just delete the slice and you can delete the divider and just replace Fireblood with your racial ability on the appropriate ring. Moving on to our utility ring, our quick cast ability here is going to be Burning Rush. This is a talent, so if you don't have it selected as a talent, you will need to pick a different ability to be your quick cast. There aren't a lot of options, and generally speaking, I recommend that you have Burning Rush as an ability just to get that extra speed when you need it. But if you don't have that, you'll need to set something else up as your quick cast. Below that, we have a couple of interesting things here. So first off, we have Demonic Circle Teleport. This is just generic, available to all specializations. We also have Corruption on here, but only for Demonology and Destruction. So you're not going to see it in this ring because I'm spec'd Affliction right now. But this is an ability that is useful for Demonology and Destruction sometimes, but is not at all a staple of their DPS rotation, so it's moved over here into the Warlock utility. For Affliction, it is a staple of their DPS rotation, so it's actually in the core ring. Okay, so that's an interesting exception for this Warlock ring. Also, for the purposes of just being pretty general and trying to accommodate everyone, in Shadowlands, I've included the signature Shadowlands ability in the utility ring. Your signature ability is your Covenant ability that everyone gets. So if I'm here in Bastion, it's going to be the Summon Steward. Now, as you're leveling up, this ability is going to change based on the zone that you're in. So I've kept this ability super generic. It just is a macro that casts your signature ability. So this will change with you as you move zones. Once you've chosen a Covenant ability, you'll need to replace this macro with the actual ability. So all you'll do for that is you'll go add a new slice, abilities, you'll find your appropriate Covenant signature ability, and you'll place it into the ring, deleting out the macro. Now, based on the ability that you pick, you'll probably want to put those in different rings. For me, I think that the Summon Steward ability is going to be a either utility or it's going to be a miscellaneous ability. You're also going to get the little potion as well, which you'll probably want to throw into your defensive keybinds. For the Necrolord, you're going to get Fleshcraft, and that is also a defensive ability that you'll want to put into that slice. For Ardenweld, you're going to get the Spirit Form, or whatever it's called, and I would put that under utility as a movement skill, a blink ability. And then for Rivendreth, or the Venthyr, you're going to get the Door of Shadows, which I would also place under utility as like a movement style ability as well. So that's where I would put those different abilities in the rings once I got them. So it's up to you where you place them. Just place them wherever you're comfortable with. Just know that once you actually have chosen a Covenant, you'll want to replace this macro with the appropriate ability in the appropriate ring. Okay, moving on from there, we've got our core ring. Now, our core ring is a little more complicated than the other ones, but it's definitely not the most complicated one. At the very top, we have Drain Soul, but this ability will swap based on the specialization that you are. So if you go to Demonology, this will turn into Shadow Bolt, etc., etc. So you can just leave this the way it is, and whatever specialization you're in, it'll be the ability that you probably should be quick casting. If you click on a divider, in the case where it made sense, I've added a caption here that lets you know what's going on. So below the quick cast is a selection of abilities that are affliction only. So I have these organized based on the order of the specializations in the talent book. So we have our affliction ones basically from here to here. So between these two X's are the abilities that are affliction specific. Now, I have these set up in the order that I like to use them in, but you can rearrange them between these two X's in order to change the order here. So if, for example, you want corruption to be on the other side, then you can drag corruption down and put it on the other side. As long as you keep it between the two X's, you're going to keep the structure of the ring the same. So we're going to drag that back up, and that's super easy. Now, below that, you're going to have Demonology only below, and that's the Demonology only core abilities that are here as well. And then after that, you're going to have the Destruction only below spells. Now, in the case of Warlock, there weren't really any core abilities that were available across all three specializations that I thought needed to be included on the core ring, so there's no section for that here like there is on some of the other classes. Moving on to the Miscellaneous ring. So this one is also another interesting one. So first off, there's only one thing on this ring that is not another ring, and that is this custom macro. Now, when you import the ring, this custom macro is going to be set up for you, and what this does is it will summon your mount. This is our quick action ability. What you need to do is you need to go in and modify the macro to set it to the mounts that you want. So let's run through this macro real quick. So show tooltip is just going to show the icon for whatever mount we have available. After that, we have use mod flyable swimming. So swimming, no flyable. Basically what this does is it says, hey, if you can swim, then use this mount. So I have this set up to be the Fathom Dweller for my character. You'll want to check that out for yourself and see what you want it to be. I recommend that you get Enhanced Mount Journal to help you figure out what you want to see here, because you can go in and you can set collected, only usable, and then you can go to type and you can set this to underwater, and then this will show you all the mounts that you have available that you can use underwater. It does look like there's a bug right now in the making of this video, but that's okay. This will help you find the mounts that you have available. After that, you have flyable and the name of the mount here. So I have the Riddler's Mind Worm. You're going to want to change this to the mount that you want to use. And then after that, put your ground mount. So I have the Vile Fiend, which right now, since I can't fly in Shadowlands, that is the default for me. So if I hit my mount button, it'll give me the Vile Fiend. However, if I can fly, it'll give me the Riddler's Mind Worm. Now, when you're typing your mounts into these macros, everything is case sensitive and has to be spelled correctly. So make sure that, if you're typing in, instead of Vile Fiend, if it's going to be, Hippogriff, make sure you type Hippogriff with the capital H and everything is spelled correctly. Otherwise, the macro won't work. And then finally, dismount is set up here so that if you are mounted, you can hit the exact same keybind and it will dismount you from the mount. So one keybind does the mount, the next one does the dismount. And that's all baked in to the macro. Now, moving on from there in the miscellaneous ring, we have several additional rings. So the first one here is our utility mounts, okay? So all of these from here on are other rings. So if you want to modify them, you need to go find that ring and modify it. And all these rings are under our hidden rings. So this one is the OPie ring utility mounts. So if you want to modify this one, you're going to go to utility mounts. Now, my definition of utility mounts is a mount that has a repair station and a mount that can carry a friend. All you need to do to customize this and change it is go into add a new slice, go to mounts, and then find the mount that you want to choose and plug it in. So if you have the yak and you'd rather have the yak instead of the Traveler's Tundra Mammoth, you could put that in here. If your character is a horde character, you're going to want to update that with the appropriate mount there. And then same thing, if you want a different passenger mount, then you can change that if you're a different faction. Super simple. So add the armor mounts and then the passenger mount that you want, and then you can delete these two off of the ring and it'll show up perfectly. Now, the way these rings within rings work is you need to hold down the keybind for the main ring. So we're holding down the keybind for our miscellaneous one. Then you point at the ring, the nested ring that you want. And if you want to change the options, you just mouse wheel up or down to change the options. Now, the main mount macro is a dynamic one, so it'll change on the fly. These other ones don't need to do that, so they're just set to being the simple, things that you need them to be. So if we do the Tundra Mammoth, it's just going to summon the Tundra Mammoth, and then if I want to summon my passenger mounts, then I can summon my passenger mounts, and then I can just go back to my regular mounts. So set those up. If you have another mount that you want, or you have some special mounts, you can just add more to the ring, and that's totally fine. So after the utility mounts ring, we have the Warlock tools number 1. So let's go in and check that out. Warlock tools number 1. To me, this is all the stuff that you use, you kind of prep ahead of time in a sense. So you have your Soul Stone, you've got your Health Stone, Ritual of Doom, Ritual of Summoning, and Create Soul Well. So all that kind of stuff you're probably using, prior to getting into combat, and it all kind of has a similar theme of prepping and summoning and all that kind of stuff. So I put these in here. You can customize these, delete things out, whatever you want to do with those. That's totally fine. The next ring that we have is Warlock Demons. So I have this one set up at the bottom. And if we take a look at this one, this has all of your demons in it, and you can use this to summon them. Now, I set this up in the order that I thought they were the main priority. You can totally change this around. So at the very top, we have Summon Felguard, but this only shows up if you are Demonology spec, because they're the only ones that have the pet, and it should be your main priority pet. After that, I've got the Voidwalker as the next one, and then we have everything else, including our Grimoire of Sacrifice. So if you have this talent selected, then it will show up on the ring as well, and you can cycle to it and use it. After the demons, we have our Warlock Gates. So once again, this is so you can set these up, for your raid situations and etc. So you've got your Demonic Circle and then your Demonic Gateway here, so you can set those up. And then the final ring is our Warlock Tools 2, and this is where I put the other tools that I thought sort of had a different theme or that you might want to use a little bit differently. So I have Underwater Breathing or Unending Breath here. We've also got Eye of Kilrog, Subjugate Demon, and Banish. So that's our miscellaneous ring. And then we get into the last ring, which is the most complicated one. But this is the Warlock Offense ring. So there's a lot going on here because generally a lot of our talents are offensive style talents, right? So this ring is definitely the most complicated, but it follows the same theme that we just saw on the core ring. At the very top, we're going to have our quick cast ability. Now, for Shadowlands, I've made the quick cast ability the Covenant ability. So your Covenant ability is your class specific ability that you get from each Covenant, and this is going to change as you level. And then it's the same thing here. If I hover over this, if I'm in Bastion, I'm going to have Scouring Tithe. If I go to Maldraxxus, I'm going to get Decimating Bolt. That's going to change, but this macro will cover all those abilities. But once you hit max level and you choose a Covenant, you're going to want to replace this macro with the actual ability. Once again, you'll just click Add New Slice, find the appropriate ability, drag it up to the top, set it as your quick action, and you can delete out the macro. Let's go ahead. Okay. So after our quick cast ability, you can click on the little macro here and it'll show you affliction only abilities are below. So from this X to this X, it's only abilities that are affliction. Now this will include talents. It will also include abilities from your spell book that makes sense to be in the offensive section. I have all of these ordered based on cooldown. So I have Siphon Life, which is an instant cast with no cooldown. After that, we've got Haunt with a 15-second cooldown, Phantom Singularity with a 45-second cooldown, Summon Dark Glare with a 3-minute cooldown. So if I had, for example, our other talent here, Dark Soul Misery, it has a 2-minute cooldown. If I were to pick this one, it would show up before my Summon Dark Glare. So you can change the order of these within the X's again to fit, what you think you want, that order to be. So feel free to shift those around. If you're like, you know what, I have Siphon Life, but I'm not using it constantly, so I'm going to put it down here. You can totally do that. It's up to you. I just thought putting them in cooldown order is what made the most sense to me because I like to put the stuff that I use the most frequently over on the right-hand side. So after Affliction, we have the stuff that is only available for Demonology between these two X's. Same things apply. After that, we've got another one. This is Destruction only below. And then finally, we have one ability that is shared by all, which is Command Demon. Now, there aren't really any overlap abilities here for Warlocks where one is shared between the other. That's a lot of our crowd control and utility type stuff, not really the offensive stuff. So there is no section for stuff that's shared by two specializations in this particular ring. So we just have the one ability that's shared by everyone, and then everything else is broken up into sections. Now, all this stuff is going to appear and disappear based on whether or not you know the ability and based on what your specialization is. Once again, if you click on a slice, I have these slices set up so that they will show only based on the specialization that you're in. That's not something that's necessary to set. I just set it to make it very clear for you in case you accidentally, move an ability up here. You can click on it and go, oh, wait, this is destruction only. I need to bump it back down here. And you can set that up. Okay. So obviously there's a lot of spells. There's a lot of abilities and stuff in these different rings. It's a lot to manage, but these rings will allow you to switch specs on the fly and have access to any spell, any talent that you have selected without having to modify anything. The only thing you'll need to add in are your racial abilities, any sort of, extra abilities you want in there. If, you want to put like, Mole Machine or Mobile Banking or something in there, you can. And you're also going to want to put any active War Mode PvP talents in there as well. This should get you well on your way. Most people will be able to use this out of the box the way they want, and hopefully running through the rings has, given you enough information that you can customize and update this and keep the same logic and theme behind it as you do so. I want to show a quick example of kind of how the rings update on the fly. So we're Affliction right now, and we've got our Affliction core. And if we look at our offense, you can see we've got our Affliction offensive abilities here. If we go and switch over to Demonology, you're going to see those update and be totally different. So if we look at our core for Demonology, it's obviously changed, and also our offensive ones have changed. We got a lot less on Demonology because I'm running a very passive talent build. But if I picked some of these active abilities, they would pop in to my ability here, or into my ring. So that is the Warlock OPie rings. You guys are welcome, like I said, to import these. If you want help on customizing these, making them more specific, doing crazy sorts of things with them, then check out the Patreon below. I do offer one-on-one add-on help, class coaching, all that kind of stuff to legendary tier patrons. So if you're looking for that sort of help, that is the place to go to get that help. Specifically from me, one-on-one, we hop in Discord, we walk through everything you want to do, we make those customizations. Outside of that, you're welcome to ask questions here in the video below, and perhaps myself or someone else will be able to help you out. All right. Like I said, throw a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, share the video, help the channel continue to grow. Really am shooting to like drastically grow during Shadowlands, so I need your help to do that. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you being here. Don't forget, check the description below for all those good links. I hope you're having fun in Shadowlands. Hope you're enjoying yourself, and I'll see you on the next video.